we are very excited to have a special guest, and that is Bob Reeves. So Bob Reeves is a fractional CFO at Acuity. Acuity is a firm based in Atlanta, Georgia that provides fractional accounting, bookkeeping, controller, and CFO services for companies that can't afford full-time roles in these positions. So thank you so much for joining us, Bob. Really great to have you here. So yeah, welcome. Our first question for you, I suppose we'll get right into it, is could you tell us a bit about yourself and Acuity?
Sure. Thanks for having me on. I've been with Acuity as a fractional CFO for about 5 years. Before that, spent 30 years in various finance lead roles in the SaaS and in fintech space here in Atlanta, Georgia, in the U.S. As you mentioned, Acuity is based in Atlanta. We support clients all throughout the U.S. We have a lot of different verticals and specialties in those verticals. I lead the CFO team that supports SaaS companies, and that's one of the reasons why I'm one of the champions for Syft, because I think there's just a natural fit with the product there. But we offer scalable solutions, so there's kind of a plug and play. So we'll have on accounts we'll have controllers and bookkeepers, and sometimes CFOs, and sometimes each of those resources independently. And so that creates some challenges as far as the service level we deliver to clients, and that's again where Syft is fitting into our long-term plans.
Awesome. And I wonder, how do you whet clients' appetites for CFO services when they haven't considered them before?
Great question. A lot of times clients will come in and they show up at our door because they need a cleanup, right? So you get a bookkeeper and a controller engaged. They don't know they need CFO services. If they're doing a capital raise, obviously they know they need CFO, but a lot of times they don't know they need it. And so what we do is, as clients come in, we offer a free quarterly call with a CFO just to establish that relationship, and also give the client, another voice at the table to bounce things off of. And those conversations range from everything from, can I afford my next hire, to, hey, I have excess cash, should I be paying down debt or investing it? Things like that. There's also pieces where they're looking for insight into their business. They want to validate, are they seeing things the right way? And so what that does is it just establishes a relationship with a CFO. Ultimately, that turns into billable hours down the road. But for the client, it's a good way for them to get familiar with a resource and understand, where some of the needs could be. And again, that's where Syft is playing a role for us, is to be able to show a client their data on Syft and show a couple of the basic, financial KPIs and kind of whet their appetite that way. It's been a great tool for us to leverage in that regard.
Amazing. So good to hear that always. And I think that links nicely into our next question. So what has been your experience of working with Syft?
So the firm I worked with, we looked at a couple of similar products in the market, couldn't get comfortable with the technology, and the training was just not put together well, so we couldn't get CFOs to buy into it.
Okay.
With Syft, we feel very comfortable with the product itself. It's very intuitive. The training's been very well laid out, and the support's been outstanding. And again, I've been on the phone, God bless Courtney and her patience, because I've been on the phone with her where she's retaught me things 3 or 4 times. And I'm not technologically savvy. You're going to hear that recurring theme through all your questions today. But like I said, this tool's intuitive. The support's been great. What I have found from our team is that, again, you look at the whole breadth of the product, it's overwhelming, right? There's a lot there. And so what I've found from the team is that folks have picked a couple of features and focused on those features for client needs, and now we're kind of building around it. And so I continue to go back through the training. I'm in the Pro Advisor training that started yesterday and continuing today. I recommend that. It's very good class. But that's been kind of the consistent theme I see, is that folks kind of focus on a couple of things that they're experts at, and they're very different from CFO to CFO. And we're trying to figure out how to drop in the gaps, fill the gaps, and kind of round out the picture. And to be honest, the one I'm really just scratching the surface on are KPIs. I've got some KPIs that I roll out to clients, but there's just so much to learn and so much to deliver there, and look forward to continue to learn there.
Well, you've got a whole new feature that makes it easier and more powerful, so I'm glad that that's there for you. So next up, how has Syft helped you standardize your reporting?
So I mentioned that we've got different resources, and depending on what resources is working a client, that historically has dictated what the financial reporting looked like, and it just depended on what controller or what CFO. And it could be line item reports straight out of QuickBooks. It could be more professional looking summarized reports, and it could be reports with KPIs. But it's very inconsistent because it was dependent on the resource. And so what we're doing is we're using Syft to help standardize that approach. And so now we have a base package that has, the basic summarized financial reports, very professional looking, a couple of the main financial KPIs. And again, as clients get into it, they can request more sophisticated KPIs and some non-financial measures that we can bring in and kind of round out. But at least we know what that core package looks like. And the other piece connected to that is, because in the past it was an Excel model that either a CFO was keeping or a controller was keeping, there wasn't a lot of interaction between the CFOs and the controllers. And now this is all in one place. Everyone's looking at the same data, the same reports, the same analysis. It really strengthens that delivery to the client, having the CFO and the controller connected.
That's awesome. I was wondering, what are some of your other favorite features of Syft?
Well, for me, a lot of it starts with, and again, this will get back to kind of my narrow area of expertise, but for me, a lot of it starts with layouts. I've got clients that want to see reports. So I've got a digital marketing firm that they have a lot of reimbursable expense. So they like to see their P&L with and without that reimbursable expense. And they like to see KPIs on the services, but also on the reimbursable expense to make sure they're managing both pieces. And so being able to develop that in layouts, and layouts is very intuitive, and being able to construct a very professional looking financial report, and then have that automatically update each month with data coming out of QuickBooks. It's really, really powerful. And again, like I said, having KPIs set up to unique focus for that client is just really, really powerful. I think more important than that for me is, I think one of the worst curses I could impart on someone is having them try to figure out my logic in Excel models. I get into very detailed and complex models, and they work for me, but having someone step in and try to make sense of that, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. So one of the nice things one of the best features I use is that I take models that I've got developed, forecast by client, very detailed level, and I'll summarize that information, bring it into Syft, and then we can lay in a scenario that the client can toggle on and off. So what happens if a major projected deal delays from Q3 of this year to Q1 of 2025? How does that impact my cash? What does that do to my cash projection? And so being able to put that in the hands of the client and let them, again, it's a 5-second conversation to teach them how to do that. Then they can update the amount, they can update the timing, they can play with that scenario to see what is the impact, and they're not having to pick up the phone and call me, or worse yet, try to interpret one of my models.
That's a really cool use case. I really enjoyed listening to that. So obviously the big topic these days is AI. So how do you see AI fitting into the picture for your firm and fractional CFOs in general?
And I mentioned I'm not technologically savvy, so for me to be voicing an opinion on this is kind of funny, but I'll try my best anyways. I think with AI, obviously right out of the gate, it is decreasing the time and cost around transactional activity, and that's going to have a major impact to the industry overall. And so, for the client, they're getting more bang for their buck. So they're not having to spend money on transaction related activity. And that can range from everything from reconciliations to even report generation, and even some high level analysis and metrics coming out of the system. And so their money's now going towards more around insights, and their expectations are rising with that. So that's put a little pressure on the firm and how we think about our client relationships. And so, we're really focused on the human interaction and making sure that those human touch points are very valuable to the client, and moves beyond just transactional related activity, but making sure that AI is part of the value of that human touch point.
Makes sense.
And are there any challenges or trends that you've noticed in the industry, particularly in the US at the moment?
Yeah, I think, obviously AI is just a huge impact. And again, it's the technology, right? So you either embrace it, and there's always an opportunity and a threat with a new technology. And so you either embrace it and figure out how to leverage that into your offering. And so I think that's got a significant impact, obviously, on especially on certain resources in the accounting industry. In the U.S., the other piece that I see, and these things will kind of merge together, the other piece I see is it feels like we've got a shortage of resources. There's, I've gone out to, first year audits with firms and had trouble getting auditors to step up and take it on because they just have the resources available. And I think that shortage is just going to grow because there are a lot of folks that are about to retire. There are not as many folks coming into the field. The work is still there. The complexities continue to grow. I think the expertise for deep diving in past the numbers and really becoming regulatory compliance and industry experts is becoming more valuable and more the expectation. And so I think for a firm like Acuity, it's an opportunity, right? You can, when there's a shortage of talent, you can step in and fill some gaps, but you've got to be thoughtful in your approach around that. And like I said, that means embracing AI, making that part of the core solution, and hiring the right folks that can provide those services.
Amazing. Thanks so much for your feedback, Bob. I really enjoyed all the insights that you gave. Thanks for taking the time to share that, and really good to hear your feedback on Syft as well. I'm glad that you're enjoying it.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.